He gave his heart to everyone, and they gave him scars in return. Not because he was weak, but because he believed too much in people. He believed that love meant loyalty and that care meant forever. He thought that if he gave his all, if he stood by them in their darkest moments, if he stayed kind even when it hurt, they would protect his heart the same way he protected theirs. But that's not how the world works, because the world does not reward softness. The world takes from soft men until there is nothing left to take, and when they're finally empty, the same people who drained them call them cold and distant and unrecognizable. But the truth is, he didn't become cold because he wanted to. He became cold because being warm almost killed him. He loved hard. He gave without keeping count. He listened to problems that weren't his to fix. He forgave things that shattered him, and still stayed hoping that one day someone would see the love behind his silence. But they didn't. They saw silence and thought it meant weakness. They saw kindness and thought it meant he was easy to manipulate. They saw his loyalty and thought he would never walk away, no matter how deep the cuts were. And so they kept cutting, laughing, smiling, using his heart like it was disposable. They never feared losing him because he made sure they never felt unwanted. He made sure they never felt alone, and that was his mistake. You see, people don't value what is always available. They don't respect what they can't lose, and they definitely don't cherish a man who makes their comfort more important than his own pain. He bled for people who wouldn't even hand him a bandage. He cried in silence for people who never once asked if he was okay. He stood by people who left the moment he needed someone to lean on. And that kind of betrayal, it doesn't just break you, it changes you. It rewires something inside you. It kills the version of you that thought love was enough. There were nights he couldn't sleep just staring into the darkness, asking himself where he went wrong, wondering how a heart so full could be treated like it was empty. He started questioning everything: his worth, his value, his purpose. Was he too much? Or was he never enough? Was he the problem, or just the punching bag for the problems of others? He stopped recognizing the man in the mirror, not because he changed, but because he was being erased, piece by people who said they cared. And one day he snapped, not loudly, not violently, not in anger, but in silence. The kind of silence that's final. The kind of silence that doesn't need to explain itself because it already said everything through its patience. He stopped showing up. He stopped reaching out. He stopped begging people to treat him right. He stopped fighting for people who were never fighting for him. And that was the moment everything changed. Because when a man who gave everything finally decides to give nothing something, inside him is reborn. He didn't make a speech. He didn't post a quote online. He didn't burn bridges. He just stopped crossing them. He disappeared into his own silence, and therein, that darkness, he found something stronger than love, something deeper than loyalty. He found himself. He picked up every broken piece and held it without shame, because now those scars were his armor. They weren't signs of weakness. They were proof that he survived what others wouldn't even dare to feel. And he began rebuilding, not to prove anyone wrong, not to impress the people who left, but to honor the man he lost while trying to love the wrong ones. He started waking up early, eating right, lifting heavy, reading more, cutting off distractions, and embracing solitude. He turned pain into discipline and silence into strength. He started saying no without guilt. He stopped explaining his decisions. He stopped shrinking himself to make others comfortable. He started choosing peace over approval. and solitude over fake support. He would walk alone, not because he had no one, but because he no longer needed validation to feel whole. He stopped entering rooms to be seen. He started entering rooms to observe and calculate and protect his energy. He became the kind of man who doesn't need to prove himself, because his presence says everything. The warmth in him didn't die. It just learned where not to go. The same people who once ignored his pain started noticing his silence. The same people who once took him for granted started feeling uneasy around him because he no longer gave them access to his heart. And that was the shift. They could feel it in his voice, in his eyes, in his energy. He was no longer the man who would break for them. He was now the man who would walk away without looking back, not out of anger, but out of evolution. Because once you realize your worth, you don't argue with people about how they should treat you. You just leave. He learned that not everyone deserves your heart. Some people only come to take, and when they're done, they leave you emptier than they found you. He learned that giving too much to the wrong people is not love, it's self-destruction. He learned that some people don't love you, they love what you do for them. And the moment you stop serving them, they show you who they really are. And as painful as that truth is, it's also liberating. Because once you accept it, you stop expecting and start observing. And when you start observing, you stop getting hurt. He now walks like a man who has been through hell, but made peace with the fire. He's not angry. He's not bitter. He's just done. And there's nothing more powerful than a man who is done explaining, done proving, done waiting, done hoping. He gives nothing but focus to his mission and peace to his soul. And if you ask him why he changed, he won't give you a speech. He'll just look at you with the kind of eyes that have seen too much and loved too hard and survived too long to care what you think. Because the truth is, he's not trying to be loved anymore. He's trying to be free, and freedom comes when you stop tying your heart to people who never respected its weight. He gave his heart to everyone, and they gave him scars in return. And now he gives his energy to his goals, his love to his future, and his time to his healing. No more running after people. No more chasing closure. No more watering dead plants. He's building now, building in silence, building in pain, building without witnesses. And that's the part they'll never understand. One day they'll look at him and say he changed, and they'll be right, because the man who once gave his heart freely now protects it like a vault, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, because experience taught him what loyalty never could, taught him that not everyone with a smile is a friend, not every hand held is a hand that won't let go, and not every tear you wipe will be remembered when you're the one crying. So now, when someone asks him why he's distant, why he doesn't open up, why he's so guarded, he simply smiles. Because how do you explain that the very people who asked for your love used it like a weapon? How do you explain that? Giving everything nearly killed you, and that survival required distance now, not as punishment but as protection. Because when a man has bled too much, he doesn't hate. He just stops leaking. And if you're listening to this, if you're the one who gave your heart too many times, if you're the one who loved too deeply, forgave too easily, stayed too long, and broke too quietly, and this is for you. Your scars are not your shame. They are your story. They are reminders that you felt deeply. In a world that feels nothing, they are proof that you had the courage to give in a world that only knows how to take. And if that makes you different, then so be it. But don't ever let this world convince you that your love was the problem. It wasn't. The problem was that you gave it to people who couldn't carry it now. It's time to carry yourself. Carry yourself with dignity, with silence, with strength. Walk away from anything that costs your peace. Speak less, move more, rebuild in private, and let the world wonder how you're still standing. Because the truth is, they expected you to stay broken, but they forgot one thing. You may have scars, but you're still breathing. And as long as you breathe, you rise, and as long as you rise, you're dangerous, because you know what it's like to be destroyed and still come back stronger. He gave his heart to everyone, and they gave him scars in return. But those scars became his edge. They became his lesson. They became his power. And now no one gets close unless they earn it, not through words, not through promises, but through actions and consistency. Because love without respect is just manipulation, and he's done being manipulated. So the next time they see him, they'll see a man not just alive but reborn, not just standing but unshakable, not just quiet but untouchable, because the old him is gone buried beneath every scar they left behind, and in his place stands someone they'll never get close to again.